My name is Margie, and at 31 years old, my parents excluded me from my sister's $90,000 celebration. So I canceled everything, exposing their financial struggle in front of 170 guests. If you have ever felt betrayed by the people who should have been your biggest supporters, let me know where you are watching from. My folks called as I was fixing my durag before going to bed. Don't take this the wrong way, but we believe it's best if you don't attend your sister's gotcha day. The club just began accepting mixed families. We aren't pushing it by bringing both of you. You see, Lily was my adoptive sister. They had white skin, blonde hair that didn't move, gorgeous blue eyes, and I was their mixed-race kid with black skin that couldn't be bleached. I assumed that if I paid for her day, people would perceive me differently. Dad jumped in. Look, we've already allocated your payment to other expenditures. The $90,000 you gave has been put to good use. And they had no idea that the venue, caterers, and florists had one thing in common. I was their employer. So you're retaining my money while not inviting me. It's Lily's day, Mom stated simply. Do you understand? I gulped and said, sure, before hanging up. That's when I realized my family was going to discover what happens when you bite the hand that feeds you. I pondered about my childhood. Mine and Lily's birthdays are in the same month, 3 weeks apart. Lily's parties cost $6,000, which included a bouncy house and catered food. Mine was a grocery store cake that Mom neglected to pick up until 6 o'clock p.m., owing to budgetary constraints. By the time Lily entered high school, I was essentially invisible unless I did something wrong. When she hurled my Xbox down the stairs during an argument, my parents said, "It's just a game, Margie. Grow up." However, when I inadvertently scratched her bike, I was grounded and had to pay for repairs with my allowance. My phone rang an hour after they ended the call. Sophia was my company's event planner. "Ms. Margie, your family just phoned to inform you of your sister's celebration. What happens now?" They want to verify that the meals are acceptable for their actual visitors, not metropolitan preferences. They were quite precise about menu adjustments. Sophia, can we still cancel the full booking? Cancel? Ma'am, the event is in 4 weeks. What did they book with us? The Skyline Ballroom, Golden Catering, Divine Flowers, our vehicle fleet, and photographers. Ma'am, they have booked approximately $210,000 in services. I laughed. I couldn't help it. My parents hired my whole firm while attempting to keep me out. Cancel everything. Silence. Then, "Ma'am, cancel everything?" Everything from the venue to the food and flowers. Send them a note that their event has been canceled due to a breach of our inclusive policy. But ma'am, the event is in 4 weeks. They have 170 guests. Then they should start making calls. My phone began buzzing within minutes. I let it go to voicemail 5 times before eventually answering Mom's 6th call. "Margie!" she screamed, actually shouting. "What have you done?" "I own every vendor you hired, every single one. You have been paying my firms the entire time, but we did pay deposits, almost $110,000 in deposits, which you're receiving back, less my $90,000. Use it to discover new merchants with only 4 weeks' notice. Good luck booking anything great." Mom was crying now. "Margie, please. Lily's been discussing this for months. She did nothing wrong." "Did Lily know you didn't invite me?" "It makes no difference to her." "Margie, did she?" "No." More quietness than quiet. "She stated that the images would look better with only her." "I don't care if she has her party on a park bench." Margie's father was once again desperate. "Your sister's buddies, our pals, everyone will do what? Discover that you cannot afford the lifestyle you have been promoting? Your kid, whom you've been disparaging for 20 years, now owns half of the city." "We are your parents." "No, you are Lily's parents. You made that apparent to me when I was 7. I could hear Mom weeping in the background. Dad was breathing heavily like he had been sprinting. "What do you want?" Dad eventually asked. "Money? An apology?" I reflected on every birthday party, graduation, and celebration I'd been excluded from because I didn't match their vision. "I want you to tell Lily the truth. All of it. Who funded her party? Who owns the vendors? And who exactly are you, Margie? And I want you both to acknowledge something you've never been able to do. What? That I am your only successful child. Say it to me, Lily, and your country club pals. Tell them I'm the only one of your children that doesn't rely on Daddy's money. The stillness was terrible. We can't. Then enjoy explaining to 170 people why there is no party. Wait. Dad's voice broke. I smirked. Come to my office tomorrow at 9:00 a.m. Your office? Excellence Events headquarters is the structure you see every day downtown. The next morning, they entered my conference room. Lily stood beside them, her face puffy from sobbing. Say it, I said. No greeting or a casual conversation. Dad gazed at the floor. You're successful in my eyes? He lifted his eyes. Lily, you are successful. Have you heard that? She nodded. Now for the rest. Mother spoke forward, her voice breaking. You're more successful than Lily, and you are our sole successful kid. Good. You may now convey this to your 170 visitors without a venue. But you said, I lied, just like you did for 20 years. Mom dipped inside her purse and took out something unexpected. It was a letter on expensive paper with a gold seal on top. Mom's hands trembled as she unfolded and passed it over the meeting table. I took it up and read the heading. Silver Oak Country Club's Board of Directors. The letter was dated 3 weeks ago. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Hargrave, this email is to inform you that your family membership has been placed on probationary status, awaiting evaluation. Several longtime members have recently expressed their worries about member demographics and sponsor connections. We believe you appreciate the importance of upholding our club's established traditions and culture. The board expects complete cooperation in resolving these issues, particularly with regard to guest lists for club-hosted events or those linked with membership. Failure to comply may lead to membership suspension or termination. I read it twice before looking up at Mom, who was flushed and blotchy. She could not even look at me. Dad cleared his throat and shuffled in his seat. His voice sounded hushed and strained. He informed me that they were 4 months late on their home equity payments. The mansion, the vehicles, and the lifestyle they'd been flaunting for years were all borrowed funds. Lily's gotcha day party was more than simply a celebration. It was meant to be their opportunity to meet with possible investors who could help them get out of their financial problem. They had invited business owners, real estate developers, and wealthy individuals who may be able to help them. That's why the venue was so important. That's why everything had to be flawless. That's why I couldn't go. Because the country club was essentially blackmailing them into keeping me away or losing their membership totally. I sat back in my conference chair and took it all in. My parents were not only racist, they were also destitute and desperate. They had been exploiting Lily's celebration as a commercial opportunity, hoping to rescue themselves while forcing me out. The country club wasn't only telling me to stay away, they were forcing it. My parents prioritized their social status and financial survival over their own kid. Lily sat softly sobbing, her flawless blonde hair cascading over her face. She appeared little and unhappy, but I couldn't feel sorry for her right away. She had gone along with it. She had stated the images would be better without me. I rose up and approached my office door. I opened it and called out to my corporation attorney, Maya Brooks. A minute later, she emerged in the doorway, dressed professionally in a gray suit and spectacles. I asked her to come in and examine the legal implications of my most recent cancellation. Maya walked inside the meeting room and saw my parents and Lily seated there. She said nothing about them. She just took out a chair and sat down, opening her leather folder and taking out a pen. My parents moved uneasily in their chairs. This was no longer a family affair. This was business. Maya requested me to walk her through the dates and reasons for the cancellation. I described the discriminatory wording Sophia had used in their vendor solicitations. The real guests, not urban preferences remark. The fact that they had uninvited me while retaining my $90,000. Maya took notes and nodded. When I finished, she requested to talk with me privately. We walked out into the corridor, and she closed the conference room door behind us. She informed me that I had to provide a complete refund of all deposits, every penny. I was unable to offset my personal contribution using business funds. That would involve combining personal and company money, which might lead to legal issues for excellence events. She also stated that I needed to capture everything: the discriminatory emails, the sequence of events, and the cancellation notice. If my parents sought to sue, we'd need a paper trail to prove we had solid grounds. I felt my jaw tighten. I wanted my parents to experience financial hardship. I wanted them to rush, panic, and understand the cost of treating me as if I didn't matter. Maya must have noticed the expression on my face, for she placed her hand on my arm. She reminded me that I had workers that relied on excellence events for revenue. I had a corporate reputation to preserve. Regardless of how much I was hurting, my personal feelings could not influence corporate choices. She was correct. I knew she was correct, but it irritated me that I had to be the responsible one while my parents got to behave like children. We walked back into the conference room, and I informed my parents that they would get a complete refund within 5 business days. Mom seemed relieved. Dad began to say something, but I raised my hand. Sophia knocked on the door and entered before he could finish speaking. She seemed anxious. Her generally perfect bun had a few hairs coming out, and she had black bags under her eyes. She sat down at the table without waiting for my invitation. She told me right away that our personnel was stressed because of the unexpected cancellation and last-minute confusion. People had been working overtime to deal with the repercussions. Other clients called with queries. She suggested we needed a defined approach and a timeline that was not influenced by my family's problems. I sensed myself becoming defensive. She was talking about families to feed and expenses to pay. They shouldn't have to cope with uncertainty because you're upset with your parents. She wasn't being rude about it. She was only being honest, and she was correct. I had been allowing my upset feelings to influence my business decisions, which was unfair to others who worked with me. I drew a long breath and nodded. I understand. I turned to my parents and Lily. If you want any services returned, you need to satisfy 3 requirements. 3? Dad asked warily. First, a formal apology to my employees for the discriminatory wording in your vendor requests, specifically to Sophia and everyone else who was harmed. Second, public recognition of my place in this family. No more hiding or pretending I don't exist. Third, a signed pledge to follow our inclusiveness standards at all future events. I checked my watch. You have 84 hours to respond. After that, the offer is permanently withdrawn. Dad began to protest, but Mom placed her hand on his arm. Lily stared at the table. They all looked exhausted and discouraged. Maya noted the requirements and said she would draft the formal statement. Sophia added, "We need a written answer, not a phone call. Everything must be documented." My parents stood to go. Dad's shoulders drooped. Mom's eyes were crimson. Lily followed them out without looking at me. The room felt unusually silent after they left. I sat for a minute, just breathing. Maya and Sophia remained. Neither of them spoke. They just stayed, and I appreciated that. That evening at home, my phone buzzed with a text from Lily. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity won. The message was long and carefully phrased. She apologized for how things looked and admitted she hadn't thought it through. She mentioned pressure from our parents and their expectations. She said she now saw why excluding me was wrong. But while I read, I noticed something. She apologized for optics, for appearances, and not thinking. She didn't name the bigotry. She didn't own agreeing to exclude her own sister because of her skin color. She had no idea why it was wrong, except that it made her look bad. I set my phone down without responding. I was exhausted, tired of explaining, of having to educate my own family how to treat me like a human being. I'd given them terms and a deadline. Now I only had to see what they'd decide. My phone rang the next morning before I'd reached the office. Unknown number. I answered anyway. A silky voice, the kind used to getting what it wanted. Ryan Carter, Silver Oak Country Club Board. I heard about the situation with your parents and wanted to smooth things over. He kept talking about a delicate position and understanding the optics. He urged me to consider how this appears for everyone involved. Code 4, stop making waves. I let him circle for a minute, then cut in. If the club is pressuring families to exclude members based on race, then you should be prepared for legal scrutiny. I won't help you manage the image while you enforce the practice. The silk snagged. He backpedaled. Misunderstanding. Never our intent. I hung up before he could finish. That afternoon, I opened a therapist directory and started scrolling. I needed to talk to someone before I did something I'd regret. The anger sat in my chest like a hot coal. Part of me wanted to keep going until my parents had nothing left. I found a therapist named Lorraine Walker who specialized in family systems and had an opening next week. I booked it. Seeing the appointment on my calendar let me breathe a little easier. Around 4 p.m., an email from Dad hit my inbox. Subject line, apology. I had no expectations, and I was still disappointed. It was corporate talk, phrases like unfortunate mistake, unforeseen consequences. Not once did he use the word racist. Not once did he confess what they did. They were sorry I was hurt, sorry for the confusion, sorry the matter escalated. Oh, I forwarded it to Maya with a single line. Is this accountability? She called 10 minutes later. It's junk, she said. Also, separate issue. You personally sent them $90,000. You can't use company returns to offset your personal contribution. No commingling. We keep excellence events clean. I hated hearing it, but I knew she was right. Understood, I said. Personal funds, handled personally. She sounded relieved. Sophia tapped on my office door moments later, tablet in hand, worry on her face. We've got another problem. The cancellation is making the rounds in the vendor community. Some say Excellence Events is unstable, that the owner lets personal matters interfere. We're getting questions. My stomach sank. I'd been so focused on my parents that I hadn't considered how it all looked from the outside. We need a plan, Sophia said. Before I could answer, my phone rang again. Victor Hayes, one of my biggest corporate clients. 3 major events a year. He didn't mince words. He'd heard things. Were our policies reliable, or did personal ties affect business? He wasn't harsh, just direct. He had a board to answer to. I'll send something in writing, I said. We'd appreciate that, he replied. We'll wait to hear from you. The call lasted 3 minutes and felt like an hour. After he hung up, I stared at my desk. This was getting away from me. I spent the evening at my kitchen table drafting a statement. Nothing about my parents, nothing about the gotcha day. Just a clear policy, our inclusiveness standards, and our right to refuse service when clients violate them. Neutral, professional. Our commitment to treating all people with respect. Our willingness to lose business rather than compromise core values. By midnight, I had something I didn't hate. I emailed it to Maya and Sophia for review, turned off the lights, and lay in bed watching the ceiling. Morning brought Dad's voicemail. No silky tone this time. Anger. You breached our contract. We're hiring a lawyer. Damages. I didn't respond. I forwarded the audio to Maya. An hour later, she sent a draft reply. Documentation of their discriminatory language, the real guests versus urban preferences line, the uninvite while retaining my $90,000. Clear grounds for cancellation under our policy. Let me handle any attorneys, she wrote. No direct contact. Wednesday. I walked into Lorraine's office for our first session. Soothing water feature, neutral art, a chair that didn't squeak. Lorraine, early 40s, steady eyes, asked what brought me. I told her everything. The uninvite, the cancellation, the confrontation, the non-apology, the business fallout. She listened, then asked one question. What's the difference between justice and revenge for you? I didn't have a clean answer. That's okay, she said. We'll work on it. Bring 2 lists next time, what you truly need from this situation and what you're trying to punish them for. Most people can't tell the difference at first. I left feeling not better, but steadier, like someone had shown me I didn't have to carry this weight the same way. That night, Lily texted. Coffee, no parents. I stared at the screen 10 minutes before replying. We can meet, I wrote. Ground rules. No excuses, no asking me to fix mom and dad, no guilt. If you try, I walk. She agreed instantly. We set it for the morning, a shop near my office. She arrived on time, eyes swollen. We sat in the back corner. She started without prompting. She chose no Margie for the photos. Said the pictures would look better with just her and our white parents. She actually said it out loud. Then she talked about pressure, to be the perfect adoptive daughter, the proof of our parents' goodness, the success story they curated. If the images were flawless, maybe it meant she belonged. My anger didn't vanish, it just changed shape. I understood the pressure, even as it didn't excuse the harm. Proof of their white savior narrative, and I was a smudge they wanted cropped. Twisted logic, but I recognized its roots. I surprised myself. What if instead of a spectacle we did something different? A small dinner, just the four of us, if there's real accountability. Therapy, honest talks about race and adoption, not performative. Lily blinked. What kind of work? Naming it, listening, hearing how I grew up in that house. She nodded slowly. I'll think about it. We finished our coffees in silence. Back at the office, Sophia handed me a printout. Silver Oak's public statement. Corporate polish about diversity and inclusion, welcoming families from all backgrounds. Any other interpretation, a misunderstanding. I wanted to throw it. Performative cover for the same practices. I forwarded it to Maya. Any legal angle? Not without proof of intentional bias, she replied. We have pressure and implications, but not a smoking gun. That evening, I drafted my response to my parents' apology. Specifics. A sincere, named apology to my team for discriminatory requests. A donation to a racial justice organization with receipt. A commitment that I would be included in future family events my companies touch. No exceptions. I sent it to both of them. Mom called within 20 minutes, voice tight and accusing. You're trying to humiliate us. Forcing us to apologize to your staff and donate makes us look racist. You made yourselves look racist, I said. This is about owning it. Dad took the phone, tried a different angle. We'll add $25,000 for the trouble. I laughed. He still didn't get it. This wasn't about money. It was about whether I mattered. The next morning, Maya brought a proposal, a business settlement, limited reinstatement if they signed an acknowledgement of policy violations and a non-disparagement agreement. It would protect the company and offer a partial solution. Flowers and photography only, scaled down, no venue, no full catering. I read the documents. They were thorough, exactly what a good lawyer drafts. I still bristled at giving them anything. Sophia stepped in with a firm tone I'd come to trust. We need a hard go, no-go date. Staff schedules are slipping. Other clients need us. We can't stay in limbo. They were both doing their jobs, protecting the company and the team, while I let personal hurt steer decisions. I made the call. Draft the settlement. Deadline's 84 hours. If they don't sign or they try to negotiate, we walk. They can find other vendors and live with the consequences. Maya nodded. I'll send it with a cover note and the clock. Sophia blocked the dates tentatively and left. The quiet that followed felt different. Not happiness. Calm. A boundary I could live with. Now it was up to them. With only 2 weeks left, they could either accept the terms or scramble for alternatives. Either way, I had done everything I could to protect my company and my employees, and that was enough for now. 2 days later, Sophia appeared at my office door holding her phone, her brow furrowed. You need to see this, she said. She showed me an email chain. Our vendor community was buzzing. The same message my parents sent, the one about real guests and urban preferences, had been forwarded to other event firms in the city. 3 vendors had reached out to Sophia directly, praising Excellence Events for standing firm on inclusion. One catering company even asked if we wanted to collaborate in the future because of how we handled the situation. My stomach twisted as I scrolled through the messages. The conversation I'd feared most was transforming into something else. People weren't whispering that I'd acted out of spite. They were saying we'd stood up for our values. For the first time in weeks, my chest loosened. That afternoon, Lily showed up at the office without calling ahead. The receptionist buzzed me to ask if I'd see her, and I hesitated. I almost said no, but something in me said yes. When she stepped inside, she looked nervous, clutching a folded document in her hands. She took a shaky breath and passed it to me. It's an apology, she said quietly. The letter was addressed to my staff by name. She'd written it herself, acknowledging her part in the discriminatory vendor request. She wrote that she understood if they didn't want to work the event, but wanted them to know she took full responsibility. I read it twice. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Can I sign it? She asked. I handed her a pen and watched as she signed her name at the bottom. When she left, I made copies and placed them in every employee's mailbox. That single gesture changed the mood in the entire office. People saw her owning up instead of hiding behind our parents. Sophia told me later that a few team members had teared up reading it. For the first time since this started, the tension lifted. The next morning, I called my parents. "You're getting 2 services back," I said. "Flowers and photography, nothing else. You have 24 hours to agree, or I withdraw everything permanently." Mom started to argue, but I cut her off. 24 hours. Then I hung up. 6 hours later, Dad left a voicemail, his breathing ragged. He called the scaled-down offer an insult. He said I was ruining Lily's day for Pride and punishing her for something that wasn't her fault. He ended with, "You'll regret this when you have kids of your own and know what real family means." I listened to that voicemail 3 times. Every time I wanted to call back, to scream, to cancel everything again, but I didn't. I saved it and got back to work. On Thursday afternoon, I went to my second therapy session with Lorraine. She asked how I felt about giving partial services back. Conflicted, I admitted. Part of me wanted to give them nothing. Another part feels petty for withholding what they already paid for. Lorraine nodded thoughtfully. "Let's talk about enoughness," she said. "Sometimes we don't get perfect justice or total transformation from the people who hurt us. Sometimes we get enough to protect yourself, enough to move on. That's power too." By the end of the hour, I felt lighter. Not victorious, just clearer. Friday morning, Harrison, one of my biggest corporate clients, called. His company had reviewed our public statement and Maya's legal documents. "We're moving forward with our annual conference," he said. "You handled this with integrity." The relief that washed over me wasn't about beating my parents. It was about knowing my business would survive. That afternoon, Ryan Carter from the country club called again. "We're launching a diversity initiative," he said, his tone rehearsed. "We'd love for you to serve on the committee." He said words like inclusive and forward-thinking, but I could hear the performance behind every syllable. "They want a face, not change," I thought. Out loud, I said, "No, thank you." "It would be great for your business profile," he pushed. "I'm not interested in helping you maintain your image while you exclude people like me," I replied. I hung up. That weekend, a mutual contact told me my parents had rented a restaurant banquet hall as a backup. They were frantically trying to find caterers who could handle 170 guests on 2 weeks' notice. I felt detached hearing it. Their scramble wasn't my problem anymore. I focused on the 2 services I'd reinstated. Sophia gathered the team Monday morning for a meeting. She outlined exactly what we'd deliver, flowers and photos only, and reassigned duties to make sure it ran smoothly. Afterward, 3 employees stopped by my office separately to thank me for how I'd handled everything. "It feels good to work for someone who keeps clear boundaries," one of them said. That comment stuck with me. The night before the event, I sat at my kitchen table staring at my phone. The partial reinstatement meant I wasn't technically banned anymore. I could show up if I wanted, but I knew I shouldn't. My presence would make the day about me, and that wasn't fair to Lily. So I ordered a gift basket and wrote a short note. "Happy celebration. Wishing you peace and joy." I sent it anonymously and turned off my phone early. The next day, Sophia texted updates from the venue. Rain had forced the cocktail hour indoors. The backup caterers were behind schedule. Table linens arrived in the wrong color. The DJ was an hour late. The whole thing was unraveling, but not catastrophically, just enough to feel human. Later that night, Lily emailed me a photo of the floral arrangements we'd provided. They looked beautiful, glowing softly under dim restaurant lights. Her message was short. "Thank you for the flowers. They made the day special." It was simple, honest, and for the first time in months, I felt something close to peace. The next day, I learned through a friend that my parents had spun the chaos into a story about intimacy and meaning. They told guests they'd chosen the smaller venue on purpose. Some people believed them, others didn't. It didn't matter. I was done being the secret scapegoat. That evening, I sat down to complete my therapy homework, a letter to my younger self about the pain of being erased by my own family. At first, the words came slowly. Then they poured out. 3 pages about birthday cakes that never arrived, the Xbox thrown down the stairs, graduations where I stood alone. Writing it didn't fix everything, but it gave the grief somewhere to go. The day after the event, Lily called. "Can we talk? Just us?" she asked. We met for lunch at a quiet cafe downtown. She admitted she'd always felt pressure to prove she belonged, that excluding me seemed like the easiest way to fit their image. I listened. My anger shifted again, softer this time. She asked if we could rebuild slowly, if I'd give her a chance to earn back trust. "I'm willing," I said, "but you have to keep showing up like this." She nodded, eyes wet. We scheduled another lunch 2 weeks later. When I got back to the office, Maya told me the legal files were closed. No lawsuit, no threats, no retaliation. She smiled. "It's over, Margie." And for the first time in years, I believed her. The following morning, I gathered my team in the conference room. Everyone looked a little nervous, unsure of what the meeting was about. I thanked them for their patience during the chaos with my family and apologized for how the situation had spilled into work. I told them from now on, we'd have a clear conflict of interest policy, no overlap between personal and company business, including my own family. Taking accountability felt necessary. A few people nodded, and the tension in the room started to lift. Sophia later told me morale had improved since that morning. "People feel safe again," she said. "They know personal drama won't decide their workload." Hearing that meant more than any apology from my parents ever could. That afternoon, Ryan Carter from the country club emailed again. The subject line read, "Opportunity for collaboration." He was still trying to recruit me for their diversity committee. I replied directly this time. "I'm not interested in lending my face to a performance of inclusivity while your institution refuses to change its behavior." Then I deleted his contact information for good. 2 days later, my phone buzzed with a text from Dad. 3 words, "Proud of you." I read it twice, unsure what to feel. Mom stayed completely silent. That difference between them told me everything I needed to know, who might eventually change and who never would. I didn't respond. I wasn't ready. The next week, I went back to Lorraine's office. She asked how I was doing now that the event was over. I told her about Dad's message, Mom's silence, and how I kept waiting to feel better, but mostly just felt tired. Lorraine nodded. "You're grieving," she said gently. "It's not always about death. You're mourning the family you wanted versus the one you actually have. That's a real loss." Her words hit deeper than I expected. We spent the hour sketching out what healthy contact might look like, if any. Together, we created a list of boundaries: no financial support, no family business overlap, and communication only by email unless it was a genuine emergency. Writing it down felt like building a fence I'd needed for years. That night, I typed it into a formal document, saved a copy, and sent it to Lorraine for my next session. When I closed my laptop, the air in my apartment felt lighter. 2 days later, Lily texted again. "Coffee?" she asked. I almost said no, but then I remembered our lunch and how she'd shown real effort. We met at a quiet cafe away from our parents' world. She paid for both drinks, a small, quiet gesture, and we talked about her job search. "I want to find something that actually matters," she said. I smiled. "Start by figuring out what you'd do if no one was watching." We agreed to meet once a month, always in neutral places, and never talk about Mom or Dad unless absolutely necessary. When we parted, she hugged me. Not the performative kind we used to do for photos, but something hesitant and human. Over the next month, business slowly found its rhythm again. Harrison's company stayed with us, which was a relief, though we lost one smaller client uncomfortable with the drama. I accepted it. 2 new clients reached out after reading about our inclusion policy, a nonprofit focused on racial justice and a tech startup with a diverse leadership team. Both signed strong contracts. I realized something important then. Integrity didn't weaken my business. It strengthened it. A mutual acquaintance told me my parents had started cutting back, sold Dad's boat, traded Mom's luxury car, canceled most of their social events. They still kept the country club membership, but their circle had grown smaller. For the first time, it sounded like they were living within their means. That weekend, my company sponsored a small community event at a local park. Music, food trucks, a few hundred people from all backgrounds. I decided to go myself instead of sending staff. I handed out business cards, chatted with local organizers, and for once didn't think about the club, the party, or the past. These people didn't care about any of that. They just cared that we showed up. It reminded me why I started Excellence events in the first place. The following week, Sophia came by my desk smiling. "Team feedback's in," she said. "Everyone feels more secure now that boundaries are official." They know where business ends and your family begins. Her words stayed with me all day. Boundaries weren't walls, they were protection, not just for me, but for everyone depending on me. A few weeks later, Lily texted to say she'd started seeing a therapist for her adoption trauma and the pressure to be the perfect daughter. For once, she wasn't asking me to carry it. She was doing her own work. That same evening, I sat down and drafted a mission statement for Excellence Events. It read, "We serve all clients with dignity. We reserve the right to refuse service when requests violate our principles. We believe events should celebrate people as they are." I printed it, framed it, and hung it in the front lobby. Sophia added it to our website. 3 months after that first confrontation, a letter arrived in my office mail, Dad's handwriting on the envelope. I almost threw it away, but curiosity won. Inside were 3 handwritten pages. He wrote about the Xbox incident, the forgotten cake, the years of comparison. He admitted it was wrong, even if he still made excuses. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. I read it twice and filed it away, unsure if I'd ever respond. A week later, Mom sent an email with the subject line, "Coffee." It was short. She said she wanted to talk, just the two of us, to understand what happened and try to repair things. I stared at it for 10 minutes before typing back, "Not yet. Let's start with occasional phone calls and see how that goes." Then I pressed send. It felt right to keep a little distance. That same afternoon, Sophia burst into my office with a grin and a folder. "You'll want to see this," she said. Harrison's company had just renewed for their biggest annual conference, over $320,000. The email from their board cited our values and professionalism as the deciding factors. I read it twice, my throat tightening. For months, I'd feared standing my ground would destroy everything I built, but it hadn't. It made it stronger. Lily and I kept meeting for lunch every other week. No parents, no filters. We talked about race, about adoption, about growing up in the same house but in different worlds. Sometimes we disagreed, but it was real. Slowly, we were building something new, something honest. One morning, while reviewing quarterly reports, I realized I hadn't gotten the perfect victory I once wanted. My parents hadn't transformed into enlightened people. The country club hadn't changed its unspoken rules. Some relationships were still broken and might always be. But I had peace. I had a thriving business built on integrity. I had boundaries strong enough to protect my sanity. And I had a sister who, for the first time, wanted to know me beyond a family photo. As I sat there looking out my office window, sunlight spilling over the city I'd built my life in, I felt something small and steady settle inside me. It wasn't triumph. It wasn't forgiveness. It was enough.